states.
You think that you are well positioned to go up against President Obama on the issue of health care?
Of course. The best equipped. The best equipped. I understand health care. Spent a good portion of my career working in health care. I came up with a plan, unlike his, that doesn't cost $1 trillion. Unlike his, we didn't raise taxes. Unlike his, I didn't cut Medicare by $500 billion. Unlike his, my plan's constitutional. So what I did worked for our state in the way the Constitution intends, which is states crafting plans that work for their states, not a federal one-size-fits-all plan.
In the next series of questions, I brought our center seat segment to the governor, with questions from the panelists.
About that. Steve Hayes from the Weekly Standard asked this: can you name 2 issues on which your views are not in line with the views of the conservative base of your party?
You know, I don't typically think about
you're not in line.
How I'm not in line with the conservative base of the Republican Party. I think in terms of what I believe. And that's what I've spoken about as I've run for office more than once. I have a record as a governor that laid out my views, or if you will, expose my views by virtue of what we did in the state of Massachusetts.
Is there one?
There are a number of issues where I part company with other members of my party. I'm not a carbon copy of all the people in my party. This whole stream of thought that you began with, which is, oh, will you say anything to get elected? If that were the case, would I still be defending Massachusetts health care? It's by far the biggest challenge I have in the primary race. And if I were willing to say anything to get elected, wouldn't I just say, oh, it was a mistake? Because I've watched other people on the stage, when they talk about their cap and trade policies, they say, oh, that was a mistake. When someone says, oh, I did this ad on global warming, that was a mistake. And so they just dust it aside. And that makes them more attractive in a primary. I'm standing by what I did in Massachusetts, not trying to dust it aside. On the biggest issue that dogs me in the primary campaign, I'm absolutely firm that it was the right thing for our state. I'll defend that, and I understand it has political implications, and if it keeps me from winning a primary, so be it. But that happens to be the truth.
A.B. Stoddard from The Hill asks, if you were president this week, what would you do immediately in response to the Pakistanis' decision to shut off NATO supply lines to Afghanistan and force CIA to vacate a key base used for drone operations?
Well, this ought to involve the personal attention of the President of the United States, either in person or on the phone. There ought to be a building relationship with leadership in Pakistan to understand our mutual interests. And I'm afraid that we're growing further and further apart, in part because of a president who simply doesn't know how to lead. And we need to have a president who can be on the phone, who can have a personal relationship, not only with Mr. Zardari, but with generals in Pakistan, with members of the ISI, to assure that they understand exactly where we're coming from, and we understand their interests. We recognize that the Pakistan people and the leaders of Pakistan, and of course it's a very multi-fractioned group there, that they will act out of their self-interest. They don't sit up nights wondering what's best for the United States. They think what's best for them and for their lives and their careers. We need to understand that. And then we need to make sure that we have places of common ground where we can work together. I think you're seeing a pulling apart of our nations, and that would have grave consequences, long-term and short-term.
Charles Krauthammer asks, you pledged that as president you would stop Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. The last resort, of course, a military attack. What you're saying is that you're prepared to carry it out if necessary. He asks, would it be a single strike or a sustained bombing campaign like in Serbia? Would it be aimed at only the weapons or the pillars of the regime, if you got to that point?
Well, before I could make a decision of that nature, I'd have to have a very thorough, top-secret briefing by our military to understand exactly what our options are, what the responses would be from the Iranian military. The intelligence community would have to weigh in. There's a lot more information I'd need to have to know what type of military strike would be appropriate and most effective.
Would you be prepared to do it unilaterally if need be?
Of course.
Lightning round here. What was the last book you read or are reading?
I'm reading sort of a fun one right now, so I'll skip that, but I just read Decision Points by President Bush.
Do you think your faith will hurt you in this primary election, and what do you think the biggest misconception about your faith is?
I think it may have some impact among a very narrow group of individuals, but by and large, I don't think it'll make the decision. Biggest misconception is the name of our church. It's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
A lot of people are talking about vision. What does 2016 look like after first term of President Romney?
It's good to be middle class in America again, where people have a conviction that the future is brighter than the past. America has to be strong, with strong culture, with a strong economy, and a military that's second to none. And we're losing faith in those things. I want to make America stronger again. America will be a stronger nation with freedom and opportunity as we've enjoyed in our past.
Is unemployment rate a certain number?
I believe that you'll see unemployment down pretty significantly. I look at adding about 11.5 million jobs in 4 years. That leads to, or that's associated with about 4% GDP growth, and that gets our unemployment rate down to just a little over 6%, as I recall. We have to be a job-creating machine again as a nation. I also see us having our spending as a percentage of the GDP down from 25% of GDP down to 20%. But those are numbers. The vision is different than just numbers. The vision is people working again, rising incomes in America, confidence in the future, and a conviction that America is strong and that it is going to be an American century as opposed to a global international century or an Asian century. It's going to be an American century.
Do you think you have work to do to convince Republican voters to trust you?
Bret, the American people have had a good chance to get to know me over the last 4 years. Some have read my book. Some have seen me in the debates. Some saw me 4 years ago when I ran. I've got a lot more work to do to be able to win this. It's a far cry from being in my pocket at this point, and I'll keep campaigning to the last possible moment.
Governor, thank you very much for the time.
Thanks, Bret.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.